The extraction of high-purity silica sand from Sibelco's Dingle Quarry at Chelford in Cheshire has been underway for more than 80 years. Over that time, it has made a particular contribution to the UK glass industry and has covered an area of some 240 hectares. The area we're concerned with today is one distinct phase of the overall quarry, just over 30 hectares, known as Lapwing Hall. Work started here in 1994 and was completed in 2008. The site has been restored to create a large lake, which occupies about half the total site. Ultimately, there will be 2 more lakes in the wider site, and there are plans for low-key sailing and other uses for those areas. A programme of planting native trees was undertaken in 2011 as the final element of restoration, which is much appreciated by the local community and by dog walkers in particular.
Set out of achievement on here was sort of really a smaller area of a water body for conservation elements, sort of low-key access, as in permissive paths around the area, and trying to put this part of the site really back to the conservation element, the quiet part of the site, if you want to call it that, compared to the bigger areas and the long-term restoration of them water bodies, which might have a different sort of after use, as in probably a little bit of sailing, where this is solely going to be conservation and, if you wish, the quiet corner of the site. The feedback we get from the general public is that since we restored it, I mean, it's not been back for too many years now, we get good feedback. They like the access, they like to be able to come out of the sort of busier areas of like the Knutsford general area. They come to here and they have a wander around, and it's nice to get away from sort of the hustle and bustle a little bit. So yeah, it's a good point where they can just come away and have an hour or so wandering around.
Straddling the border between England and Wales, the Wye Valley area of outstanding natural beauty is known for its limestone gorge scenery and for its dense native woodlands. Quarries like this one near Chepstow have come and then gone again. In the case of this Hanson-operated site known as Livox Quarry, working left steep side faces and a level floor. While nature was more than ready to take over, successful restoration depended upon making best use of limited soils, subsoils and quarry waste, some of which was stored 20 years previously. Amongst the stored material at the Crown Estate-owned site was what amounted to ecological gold dust, original topsoil from the ancient woodland that had occupied the site before it was quarried. The soil stores showed plenty of evidence of natural regeneration, and the Hanson team was confident that the flower and tree provenance locked into the soil would survive further handling to make wider use of it. And they have been proved right. Amongst the emerging tree saplings, bluebells appeared in the first season, and through the course of a year you can now find wildflowers such as celandine, wood anemone, dog's mercury, and even the rare herb Paris. Meanwhile, a commercial wildflower mix has been sown on the calcareous grassland, which is emerging on the old quarry waste and scalpings. Here, at the right time, you will see knapweed, scabious, oxeye daisy, bird's foot trefoil, lady's bedstraw, and wild carrot.
I'm very pleased with it. We've managed to show what can be achieved on the rest of the quarry now that the quarry operations have finished. And yeah, we've got a full range of good agricultural grassland, wildflower grass, and you can see that the woodland areas are on their way to having a tree canopy in due course. And of course, there's a full range of invertebrates and butterfly species which thrive on the site. So yes, it's a nice example that adds to the good countryside of the Wye Valley.
The site demonstrates very well that natural rejuvenation takes time, but that with a gentle helping hand it can be very effective. From pitches used by professional footballers to reed beds loved by birds like the bittern, with woodland, pasture and fishing for good measure, Hanson's restoration of the Middleton Hall site near Tamworth in Staffordshire has it all. The sheer extent of the variety involved in the restoration of this 470-hectare sand and gravel site is quite incredible. So too is the transformation from a previously degraded, intensively farmed landscape to one that has a huge diversity of habitats. Dating in part from Norman times, the original Middleton Hall still stands at the heart of the estate and operates as a wedding party venue. Around it, Hanson has conserved the ancient park woodland. It has also returned some of the land it has quarried to farming, with potatoes and wheat both now cropping prolifically. The football pitches have been achieved on an area that was filled with inert material, and are now part of the Aston Villa training ground. But it is perhaps the impact on the valley of the River Tame that is of greatest note. Hanson worked closely with the Environment Agency on a scheme which involved experimental extraction of gravel from the riverbank. In doing so, it made possible the creation of islands, gravel bars and other features which enhanced the habitat value and improved the site's fishery. With some 23 hectares of reed beds also created in the main gravel workings, the overall benefit has been massive.
I think of all the restoration aspects, we are probably most proud of the river braiding, which is really a first for mineral extraction, to have taken out the river margins which were originally being left and make use of that natural resource of gravel, as well as creating a much better habitat, improved habitat for the river. It's much a healthier river now and more natural looking with all the islands and riffles and rapid waters, so it's oxygenating the river and improving the ecology of it.
And what's more, the restoration helps to alleviate flooding in the wider area because the original floodplain now works as such, rather than simply funneling rising water downstream to Tamworth. While work continues apace at CEMEX's Willington Quarry in Derbyshire, there is perfect peace for wildlife in this now restored previous phase of the site, which is dominated by open water, but which also has areas of wet grassland, tree planting and aquatic margins. What used to be modest agricultural land now offers considerable wildlife benefits alongside the Trent and Mersey Canal. The fact that the restoration works so well today is due in no small part to the input of quarry manager Vanessa Smithson and her site team, as they managed to overcome technical challenges at the construction stage.
Yes, over the years of construction and ongoing restoration of the site, we had a few flooding issues from the brook, which is local to us. So what we did when we formed the brook, when we formed the lake, we monitored the water levels in different seasons, so winter and summer levels. And what we did, we marked it. And then what we found was there is a huge variation in the winter and summer depths. So what we did is we opened up a pipework so that the water level would never alter for planting reeds. So hopefully, once the reeds embedded, we would never have an issue with them. Due to the water levels being up and down and over the seasons, we held back on tree planting. So we got them in the right position to making sure the restoration plan was to plan really, working with the council.
While the big benefits are for wildlife, the site has also helped the local parish council to define its territory with the planting of a row of black poplars along the village boundary. Blending a limestone quarry that has been worked for some 70 years back into a landscape as beautiful as the Peak District National Park is no easy prospect. Given that CEMEX's restoration of Goddards Quarry in the Hope Valley didn't start in earnest until 2010, the transformation from industrial scene to picturesque grassland is remarkable. The fact that steep slopes had previously been hydroseeded with grass and some trees planted meant that the general process of softening the scene had already started. The original rock faces were then blasted to reduce their height and ensure their safety. They were, nonetheless, left exposed as a key element of the new scene. Those who take a closer look at them can enjoy the fascinating fossil beds. There is also a pond for newts complete with a hibernacular to provide added protection for the tiny creatures during the harsher weather. There are also reptiles and rock bees on the sunny quarry faces, several species of butterflies and a badger set. A permissive path makes it possible for locals and visitors alike to enjoy a route around the quarry. They can also pause at a viewing platform to take in a now peaceful view, which not long ago would have included a busy quarry production plant.
Hard rock quarries are always a bit of a challenge to restore, just by their very nature. Much harder than the sand and gravel quarry, for instance, where you can restore the ground to lakes and fields, back to fields. But of course you've got all these faces and you've got to think about safety and how you leave them. So that's always a challenge, how you leave the faces, especially when there's public access, which there is here. The main challenge really is getting it to blend in with the landscape that surrounds us, and I think we've quite successfully achieved that. I like to think it's an asset to the community. Being right on their doorstep, they can come out here. It's a very peaceful place and some lovely views over the valley from up here that they previously couldn't have seen. So yes, I think it is a valuable asset.
Fishermen will tell you that this lake in West Berkshire is home to England's biggest freshwater fish, a whopping 62-pound carp. Its presence says much for the quality of the lake that didn't exist until a few years ago, when it was created by gravel extraction. It was only 6 years ago that the last mineral was dug out and the processing plant demolished, which makes it all the more remarkable that it has become a beauty spot, loved not just by fishermen, but by the wider local community, who enjoy it via the footpaths that have been created. Set alongside the River Kennet in the village of Woolhampton, the site is owned by the Wasing Estate. The estate has worked closely with mineral operator Tarmac to take it on to a new era with an environment that is rich in nature. But it also includes agricultural land for grazing and for miscanthus, a high-energy crop grown for biomass. There are also areas of wet woodland and scrub, reefs, marginal vegetation around the lakes and species-rich grassland. Such is the ongoing potential that a nature reserve trust has been set up to advise and to enhance the public education potential. The owner of the Wasing Estate, Joshua Dugdale, is very enthusiastic about what's been achieved here.
Restoring this has been an incredibly important part of what we've been doing at Wasing, and I'm happy to say I'm very, very proud that this has become one of the nicest, most beautiful parts of the Wasing Estate. And I think it is definitely a huge addition to the local environment. It's certainly a great benefit to the fishermen and the nature lovers who come by, and I think you'll probably find it hard pressed to find anywhere that's quite as beautiful in the form of a restored mineral operation anywhere in the country.
Gallagher Aggregates wasn't the company that extracted the mineral at this site near Maidstone in Kent, but it has been the one to handle the filling and restoration, and its sister company is now farming the land. Go back far enough and the site would have looked very much as it is today, open farming country. It also at that time had a playing field within it. The void was created by many years of sand extraction by a local brick company. It was in 2002 that Gallagher began filling it in with inert construction waste that could not be recycled. With a watercourse close by, the company had to be vigilant to ensure that all the fill material that came through the gate was clean and inert. By 2006, the work had advanced a long way, and further still by 2009. Today, the completed landform includes a wildlife corridor with hedgerows linking two older woodlands, and there's also a pond for drainage that creates another valuable habitat. Chairman Pat Gallagher's great delight is that you can't see the join.
We've just had a crop of silage, which is our second crop of silage off it. We average just over 13 tonnes per acre. And I think that compares to some of the best farmland you'll find in Kent. We've just finished stockproof fencing last week, and I should think within the next week or two, looking at what Jeff is doing, topping it, he's getting it ready to put some cattle out on it. I suppose the success of the restoration is, if you look at it now, the way it blends back into the countryside. That's what I'd call success to it.
Through the eyes of a child, CEMEX's restored Powburn Quarry in Northumberland is a place full of excitement and interest. A place where you might well see swans, ducks, butterflies, foxes and even otters. Plus, of course, a good few mini beasts. Through the eyes of a teacher, it's a great resource that can be used across different areas of the curriculum, a place where you can make learning fun. The youngsters from the adjoining Branton Community First School have their own direct access to the site. They love this place so much that it even features in the school badge. But the restored site with its view of the Cheviots is also magical for the wider community and is well used most days of the year, not least by birdwatchers. The site has two lakes, one of which is for fishermen, as well as nature conservation. The facilities that have been provided include a bird hide, interpretation boards, a dipping pond and disabled access. In total, 55 species of birds have been recorded, plus 14 mammals, 5 reptiles and amphibians, plus 21 butterflies and damselflies. The grassland habitat is maintained by ponies that have been brought in to do just that.
The pond is really good for the curriculum. We've got in the science curriculum, they have to learn all about habitats, different animals. You've got all the seasonal changes. It's nice that they can come down at different times in the year and see how the ponds have changed, what animals are are here and which ones have gone. Looking at the different plant life, because it's not all about what's just on the water, and all the mini beasts. Geography as well, looking at the different features of the landscape and how the landscape can be used for different things. You know, in the past it's been used for a quarry, but then the positive changes that have occurred because of that.
The school is in fact so fond of the old Powburn Quarry that it invites other town schools to come and visit, so that they can share this very special place too.